So this is where it's gonna get interesting. Wow, that is an inch of wax. Look at this. Holy cow.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
13 nails in that one little piece of trim. So if you want to save some money, it's better to learn how to do this yourself. If you don't maintain your drains, that's what's gonna happen to you. Nasty. Looks like a drywall screw, Max. And it is. My God. It's just such a bad installation of the tile that's causing all this waving. That would be really good for us. I think we're gonna increase value in this kitchen. This is not acceptable. And that is money in the bank. This is where it gets fun. Fire in the hole! It's not the time to be putting out big dollars. Thank you, Hero. There's another tool you won't need to buy. Perfect, every time. So on today's episode of Reality Renovision, we're out here in a beautiful part of town. Hello, puppy. And we've got a great little project. It's a basic removal and reinstallation process. We're doing a laundry room and hallway. It's also the back entrance to all of this beautiful hardscape property. It's just a bit of a surprise because we've actually done a little investigation. We pop off the heat grate and we know that the installation that was done here is not up to par for the neighborhood and the quality of this house. So it's gonna be good for us because it's gonna come out real easy. But at the end of the day, we're really kind of shocked to see the kind of installation here is something you'd see in a rental property. It's always disappointing when you see that. All right, well, welcome to the laundry room / rear entrance of the home. This is the main door that goes to the backyard for all of that outdoor living experience. So having this floor here, obviously, it's time to change. Now, our clients are fixing this house up basically one room at a time. So this area of the house is what's next on their agenda. It's time to get rid of this early 1970s tile and put in something a lot more modern and sleek. We're also gonna update the countertops, putting in some quartz with a new backsplash. We're refacing all of the doors on the cabinetry. It's solid oak, so we're doing a really nice paint job off-site, and then we'll come and reinstall. And of course, we've got to repair some doors, and there's a powder room in here as well. So this ends up becoming quite a big scope of work. It's almost 200 square feet of flooring, and we've got to rip all this out and put in some new herringbone tile, 4x24. It's gonna be beautiful. So when you're doing a new flooring job and you have existing tile, I'm gonna say probably 90% of the installation of tile projects in homes that have got a wooden subfloor look a lot like this. There's a plywood layer. This is what we call direct bond. So this is cemented directly to this plywood. And if you count the layers, there's 4 of them. That makes this plywood a 1/2 inch. Now in our area, the building code has us using 5/8 tongue and groove subfloor plus a 1/2 inch plywood. It still falls a little bit shy, okay, of the amount of wood that we need to get 1.25 inches of substrate. Still an 1/8 thin. But what we got here, the reason this is a cheat is because you can see underneath the plywood right here, this is existing vinyl floor, all right? And underneath that vinyl floor, before they put that on, there's a 1/4 inch plywood. So what happens is you have your house and it has a vinyl floor, and you call a tile guy and you order in your installation, and they come along and they screw down a 1/2 inch plywood over top of your existing floor. And then they tile right over top of that surface. And this is the most common installation in the market today. It's a huge cheat. I hate it. I wish people would take all these extra layers out, because as a result of that, they've lost the ability to know if they can't screw down the floor to the floor joists and get rid of the squeaks. They don't know if they've got dips and valleys. They're not using floor leveler, and none of the doors work. So these closet doors that we have over here are the bifolds. They actually don't open all the way. So if you have a house like this, I'm gonna show you all the tips and tricks for getting this out of the way, getting all the way back down to the original subfloor. That way you can install your tile and your doors will work again. So we're gonna pull all the trims, get them out into the garage into a pile. Then we're just gonna smash the tile, all right? And load it up into those really cool bags that we got. And then what I wanna do is, I wanna lift the sheets of plywood from the regions as we go. So my process for doing a demolition on a floor is really simple. We need to identify, first of all, what are we keeping and what are we not keeping. In this situation, we're keeping all of the baseboard, But because our floor is going to be lower when we're done, all of the plinth blocks, which are these blocks located at the door, okay, underneath the casings, these are called plinth blocks, and they're traditionally just a little bit wider, a little bit thicker, and that's what gives you that ability to just bring in a straight cut into your trim. They're all going to be too short. So I've got to go out and get some new ones and cut them and paint them in. So we're going to take all these off, they're going in the garbage. Although our new floor will be lower when we're done, we're going to just cover all that up with a real nice decorative shoe that matches the profile on this base. Oh, that's not going to come out, there's not enough room. So this is one of these situations I'm talking about. This closet was framed properly, the doors are standard size, everything was normal until they added so many layers on this floor that nothing works. So the door's got a pin, it's on a spring. It's supposed to be sitting in this, it's not here. Now, since it's not here, this is in the way. All right, this is the screw you need to remove so that moves. Then you want to close the door, slide it forward until it pops out, and then you can lift it out of the footrest down there. All of these parts are available in the hardware store for replacement. So if your door is damaged, you can replace any one of these parts for just a couple of bucks. It only takes a minute. Just a quick little spin. There we go. So this hardware, these doors, this bracket actually has 3 places where you're supposed to put a screw. Okay, not just one drywall screw. I guess the last guy that did the floor took this off the old floor, lost the hardware, and they, just throw it back with a drywall screw. That'll be fine. And this one's got 1 drywall screw as well. That's the guy that's doing that job, doesn't have a system. These guys are removing all of my base for me. It's a solid pine base, so as long as you're careful, it'll come loose from all of those galvanized nails. So just make sure you guys mark the walls and with the corresponding numbers, and then we'll be able to put all that trim on later.
So you take the piece and then you just roll it away. There you go. Boom. Easy peasy.
And here we got us removing all of this quarter round. And we call this quarter round because it's the same height as it is width. The other name people use is, they call it shoe mold some places. But that traditionally is reserved for when the wood isn't as thick coming off the wall. It's a thinner profile. Classic, right? Some of these pieces have 2 nails. And why guys feel compelled to always put a lot of nails in tiny little pieces of wood?
Better safe than sorry, I guess, right, Dad?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
13 nails in that one little piece of trim.
Yeah, and an 8-inch.
You'd think after all that work, they would have taken the time to give that a second coat of paint. All right. Here we go. No worries. We're gonna keep this as well. We'll put that with those doors, that'd be perfect. As soon as we're done with that trim, we'll start working on the tile. So the plan here is to change out the countertop and the sink and taps. So, lovely. It's always the way that works. It carries more water. So here we go. There's the nasty hair. This is a really standard installation. We actually did a kitchen renovation. I think Maria's house, pretty much the same stuff. You've probably seen those videos where we had to remove the kitchen sink, disconnect the plumbing. And in that situation, the countertop guys came and installed their granite, and we disconnected and then reconnected all the plumbing. It's another great way to save a ton of money. Remember, when your stone guy comes, he's not going to do any plumbing for you. So if you want to save some money, it's better to learn how to do this yourself. Ah, nasty. And that's the kind of corrosion you're going to find. Nasty. Nasty. The brass holds up against the water really well long term, but when you have the hair clog in the drain, that's what causes the corrosion. So if you don't maintain your drains, that's what's gonna happen to you. So rule number 1 is shut off the water. Rule number 1 should be put the shut-off valves where you can reach them. Where the... Why is it so far up out of the way here? Oh, thank God it worked. So, those are some really old shut-off valves. They put up a good fight, and thank God they actually work. So, I think I'm going to recommend to the client that we're going to change those out for a newer style with a ball valve. It doesn't have any gaskets, and it will never leak. These kind here, I wouldn't be surprised if after doing this exercise, they don't work ever again. I think those gaskets are all dried out. Yeah, don't forget rule number 1, if you're touching plumbing and you're not as confident with what's going on, just turn off the main water supply to the house, and that'll mitigate any kind of major disaster that could happen on your job. So every once in a while you get a surprise. Somebody put 2 pieces of little trim together and caulked it on, nailed it on. So we've got to save that in case that trim isn't available anymore. Now I'm a big fan of cleaning as I go, just so that I don't have an accident. These plastic grills, they're garbage. We're not putting these back. I never put a plastic grill back on because no one can ever step on it. It seems stupid to ever buy them in the first place. But what we're gonna do is we're just taping off the door, because when we're doing this tile smashing business, I don't want little chunks of tile flying into the next room. These bags are a little bit thicker than our 6 mil bags that we use for regular garbage. They're a 7 mil, but they have it's the way they're constructed. It's like a nylon mesh, right? It's like anti-tear, anti-anything. So when you're breaking up your tile, because what we do is we just smash the daylights out of the floor with a small hammer. We scoop it all up, put them in these bags. It'd be nice if they were a little bit shorter, because a bag that's this strong, I mean, that's gonna be way too heavy when it's full, but I just like to go something comfortable, 40, 50 pounds, haul it out of here. I'll buy a few extra bags, I don't even care. I'm not throwing my back out for anybody. Hammer, knee pad, glasses, diapers, let's go.
Diapers.
Face diapers, yeah.
Oh, are you talking about face masks?
Yeah.
The joints.
All right.
Alright.
Thanks for being fooling around. Can we just get the busy here?
Joints right here.
Can we get the busy here, please?
Yeah.
I want you guys to go into the hall first. That'll be the first area we remove, okay? Don't come anymore this way. This is a great time actually for us to explore their installation technique. See if we can learn anything. Okay, see this? Classic direct bond, right? So we have a lot of cement. They use a nice thick trowel. Okay, you can see the trowel grooves right here. Great contact with the tile, but direct bond on plywood. And this is why you shouldn't do this. Most guys don't take the time to wet the plywood while they're installing their tile, and so it doesn't actually bond to the plywood because it's too dry. You guys look awesome. All right, so now you know. This is how we got it, right? Let's check something out before we go any further. And there you go. I think I love it. Did you just take shrapnel?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh God. I love it when people don't install tile right, because it makes my job so much easier to remove this floor. I'm going to be able to find all my screw holes and everything without any difficulty. And now we don't have to beat the living daylights out of it and create all this dust. I love working with my boys.
Don't worry.
Such a pain in the butt.
Don't worry, the two.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
These are steel toe vans, don't worry.
Oh, okay.
Toe vans.
Thank you, Nate. Get that on the ground flat.
I'm tall though.
Well, you're the one that asked for the bar. Hey, control, okay? You're only pushing as far as you want that to go, even if you miss. There you go. All right, well, that was fun. We just ready to pop out for a minute. We went and grabbed coffee for the guys, and our granite guy showed up to do his measuring. So you saw him do his little program in the video. That's pretty cool. I just wanted to talk about this real quick. There's so much you can learn from a tile job when you're doing the demolition. So I wanted to point something out. Just gonna grab it. Down here, have a look at this. So we talked about before about how a lot of this tile job, it didn't bond to the plywood. All right. Now, in this one area here, it bonded to the plywood. It is absolutely fascinating. It's the only spot right here. And in every other area, the tile comes up and all the cement is full of cement right here. Okay? But in this area, the tile came up clean. So kind of an interesting idea. And this is the kind of thing you see when somebody's working along, blah, 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 and they put down their cement, and then they stop to have a break. Go answer a phone call, 5 or 10 minutes goes by, they come back, they lay their tile, they keep on going. What happens is the air dries out the top of the cement, so when you press the tile onto that cement, the part that's in contact with the tile is now dry. And so then you don't even get a bond. But all of that moisture that was in that cement ended up bonding to that plywood where it never did anywhere else. It's absolutely fascinating. I wonder if this is just the only spot that he ever even used a sponge. Maybe he had a spill. I don't know what's going on. It's just bizarre. Although I am very happy that as soon as you get past this point, it starts popping up real clean and easy. There just are not enough screws in this plywood. Okay, these joints line up. They should be staggered. And it gets a lot more strength if you stagger your joints, especially in a hallway. The screws here are like almost 8 inches, which is not enough because remember there's another linoleum floor underneath this and another 1/4 inch. So you're not just attaching this plywood, you're sandwiching and bonding all of that together. These should be every 2 inches and then every 6 to 8 inches. I would probably go 6. If you're gonna cheat and go over top of an old floor, you should go 6. It's not against the rules to do that, but if you're gonna do it, throw in enough screws that you don't get the floor moving around and popping. There's a lot of areas in this floor where the grout's chipping out, and it's because of the movement from having the joints like this and not using enough screws. So it's kind of funny. It doesn't matter who you are, where you live. There are minimum standards for everything we do, and this should be a lot more screws like I mentioned, and it should be a flooring screw, but my bit's not working. Because this, no kidding, it looks like a drywall screw, Max. And it is. My God. All right, so here's the deal. That is totally unacceptable. Even if it's a flooring screw, this screw should be longer, first of all, because it's got to pass through 1 inch and almost 1.5 inches of material, including the vinyl. And so it's just the tip of that screw grabbing the subfloor. Unbelievable. No wonder there's so much heaving. I'm wondering if maybe the subfloor in this house is a lot more level than I originally thought. It's just such a bad installation of the tile that's causing all this waving. That would be really good for us. Yeah, this is ridiculous. Isn't that something? They cheated, and I'm benefiting. You gotta find a spot to get underneath the floor, start ripping it up. Once I get this one up, I'll be able to use that bar and get underneath this plywood. It'll just pop right off, because it's not screwed into anything, and it's fine thread screw. It's not a flooring screw, that's not even a coarse thread drywall screw. I mean, holy cow, you're gonna cut corners. At least stay on the road. Oh, yeah. Let's just see if we can pop this off here. And there's the original floor. Bum, 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 bum. Nasty. Whatever screws you can find is great. After that, we'll just use the bar and lifter thing. Let's have a look here. Okay, Nate, go give him a hand with that toilet. He's ready now.
Ready?
Yeah.
You on? You just get it off and on.
Trying to fight that out so I didn't have to paint the walls again.
And it's difficult here because there's like a kind of washer right there that's restricting my access with this, so I gotta do like single strokes. It's gonna take a little while. I guess the connection in the floor is all like, it's wet or something. I don't know, so whatever it scoots in the floor is just not screwed together anymore. So it's just floating.
That should not be that easy. Okay. That's cool.
No, it's not.
No worries. So this is where it's going to get interesting, because this toilet was probably installed for a vinyl floor, and then somebody added all this height.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think you're going to find when you
double ring?
You think it's 2 rings?
Yeah, just because there's drywall screws, and I think they just would cut corners. Just
Right.
put it on.
Fair enough. Good call.
Okay.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right. What we should find is a flange extension kit. Now, I've also seen guys use the extension kit, but they lost the gaskets, and so they just silicone the crap out of it.
Oh, so it's, yeah.
Right? Anyway, well, let's lift this off and let's see what we find. Here we go. Okay. Okay. All right, let's get this out of here, and we'll have a better look. Of course, I threw that in there just to get rid of the that huge amount of wax. Matt, you're right.
Woo!
There you got a ton of wax in here.
I just got $2,000.
Wow, that is an inch of wax. Look at this. Holy cow. You know, they got lucky. A lot of times when you put that much wax to seat a toilet, it gets pushed over when you're setting it down. And what happens is your big 3-inch hole becomes a small little 1 or 1.5 inch hole. The proper way to do this is to add an extension to this. Okay, so this is ABS, and you can actually get Teflon rings that sit on top of this that have rubber gaskets, and it all gets screwed together on the flange. And you build this up until it's about 1/8 to 1/4 higher than the finished floor, and that's it. I mean, that's not just a thick ring. That's the extra thick ring with another ring. I don't think I've ever seen that much wax on a toilet before. Dear Lord. Now the plan for this area is a new quartz countertop, a high arc sink faucet, and we're going to remove this beadboard and install a nice backsplash tile. So when you're removing your plugs, traditionally these screws are a number 1 Robertson. Those are not traditional screws, but seem to work, right? They've got them taped. That's awesome. Okay, and we're gonna just fold them flat like that, so we can slide everything off. Oh,
Now, we've got the water off. We've already tested that it's not working, so we're good. So basically, you just gotta loosen these off and then move the tooth to the side. So I can't get in there to remove the screws because this is a nice deep sink and my drill doesn't fit in the space. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the entire countertop with the sink attached. It's probably the only way to get this thing off. And I don't wanna just rip it off because then I'll break the cross piece on the cabinet. So here's my bit extender. This is what I use to solve all my problems. All right, just snaps into the drill, snaps in the other end. There we go. Now, it's long enough because I have got to get the sink out. Oh, come. Where are you going? Everything here is just crap. All right, I've had it. Sometimes your uninstallation may not go as planned. Here, we got so many things going on. I need to separate the backsplash from the countertop because I can't lift the sink forward, I can't lift it up. The plumbing is attached to the countertop and I got a 12-inch deep sink. I am way too old to be crawling around underneath this. Unfortunately, doing it my own way now. All right, let's just, wow, so now you get an understanding of when you're buying countertops from the granite or quartz people, why they don't include the removal or reinstall of any of the plumbing fixtures. They don't want to get involved in a mess like that, where somebody's been creative to create, attach things. They don't want to have their granite guys coming here, taking the liability of causing what could be construed as damage to your cabinets. Even though this is irrelevant and it's not going to be a problem down the road, they just like to walk away. They want to walk in, set it down, and leave. So one of the ways that you can save a lot of money with your installation is you can take care of taking off the old sink, take out the old counters, reattach the plumbing again. Watch a couple of our videos to get a handle on what's going on with that, because they're going to have all kinds of upcharges over and above the contract price. I've seen it before. They walk in the house, clients expecting new sinks installed today. They walk over and they go, oh, you have to disengage all your plumbing, it's in the contract. It's in the fine print, no one told them. Okay? And then you're standing there and they're like, well, we could always come back tomorrow. Well, what do? You've already taken the day off work, you're waiting for your countertop to install. This is why they do what they do. If you know what's coming and you're prepared and you're ready, they drop it, they walk, they're nice and easy. If you're not prepared, they're gonna have a few $100s to uninstall, another few $100s to reinstall. You're gonna almost double the cost of your installation. So be prepared, make sure that you've got everything ready for them before they arrive. Well, there we go, it is lunchtime. We are just about halfway through the demolition, which is awesome. We're gonna have lots of time today to get this finished up. We have no more interruptions, no more visitors from countertop people, etc. So we'll put in a good afternoon. By the end of today, we are gonna have everything removed right down to the subfloor. We'll make sure we sweep and vacuum and get all of our tools organized at the end of the day. This is how I like to leave a job site. Nothing to be tripping over, no mess, no danger for pets and family. Oh, can't wait to start leveling this floor off. We are midway through our project now. Welcome back to the mudroom, and we are waiting for our countertop guy to come and install that today. We also have some grout that I need to finish and some trim work to do and some paint work on the cabinets to do. I've got to finish my custom overhead drying rack center area. Oh my goodness, we got to install our toilet and hang our doors and resize the bifolds. And of course, we got to put the hardwood in the back hall. So we don't have a whole lot of time to fool around, but I did want to show you this. This is our backsplash tile. Very cool. Client also picked out a bunch of black hardware. We got knobs and pulls that matches the style and the lights here. And of course, all the hardware and all the doors are gonna get changed over to black. So I had to run out this morning and pick up a new high arc faucet, black, because we're gonna have to keep that same metal motif running everywhere. So that's gonna look really cool. We're gonna have this gray backsplash, a little bit of texture, black faucet, white quartz top. Ha! Loving how the floor is looking. Let's get back to work. So we are refinishing the cabinets here, of course. We're going from a nasty brown to this beautiful white. So if you'd like to see the process for redoing your cabinets, we actually covered this topic in season 2 of the reality Renovision, our kitchen remodel. Redoing your kitchen cabinetry is a great thing to have in your toolbox. All right, and it's a perfect DIY for anybody. Just a quick note, I'm using the Dulux Expert Sealer. It's a primer sealer transition paint. Works fabulous on stained wood and fake wood. Need 2 coats when you're working against a really dark brown though. It's probably better when you're working like this to do extra coats of the primer sealer until you really have a nice solid white surface before you go with the finished paint. So this is the door to the garage, and in our climate, we get to -30 in the wintertime for extended periods of time. So even though the garage is out of the weather, because it's that cold for that long, it's still gonna be -30 in the garage. You just don't get the wind chill factor. I noticed when I was doing the floor that the door was blocked, but there's these huge gaps. And just because I have rectified porcelain, doesn't mean I don't want to insulate these gaps. This could cause me problems down the road. So I am going to just fire in some of that foam here. Try to keep it somewhat controlled, because this stuff does like to expand a little bit. And put it in the closed position so we can use it again. And we're going to nail this on before we grout, just because I don't want to let that foam expand out of the way. Now this particular door has got a wood sill here. At the other entrance, the door was actually not a wood sill, it was wrapped in steel. So I couldn't nail right into the sill. What I did is I had to go on a 45-degree angle with a 2-inch nail and go between the metal and the tile into the subfloor. This is a lot easier to do. All done? You can watch, but you just can't talk. Okay, so I'm just gonna do the caulking joint here between the wall and the baseboard. Now this is a wall board, so it's a preformed panel. It's got all these gaps and they're very dark and they're dirt collecting, but there is a way to do this so you don't have that problem. If you pause in each one of these gaps and fill them up, this takes a little bit of practice and control. Have the right amount of pressure on that gun all the time. Bam. Gorgeous. That finished with caulking, or that without the caulking and just air sprayed. I like getting my holes all closed up. I think anytime you can see a shadow, it needs to be fixed.
time for the backsplash. The guys over at Mountain Granite did an awesome job cutting and putting this together for us. So we have a beautiful quartz top now. When you're dealing with mosaic tile of this nature, I always suggest lay it out. Put it all together like a puzzle, and then take your framing square to mark your cutting lines to start off with. And here is the reason why. If I do this, I can get 2 perfectly straight edges, and then no matter what type, size of spacer I'm using in between these tiles, it's not going to change the relationship between where this cut should be. So I can line up along my gap down here, leaving a little bit of a gap from the full tile, and then where I'm marking this ceramic is actually where I want my cut to go. All right, and then all the way up down here. Perfect. There we go. Now I can go to the grinder with the first few pieces here, and then when I'm installing my tile, I won't have to make any cuts until I'm about halfway down and right near the top, and that helps me be really efficient with my time. So before we do the backsplash, we're gonna do butterfly patch here. Guess what? They must have updated the electrical here and added a switch for this light, and just left the hole. Previously the room, this all had wood paneling, so they never had the need to close that hole in the drywall. Now I'm just gonna whip together a little bit of mud and tape that in. Now I've got a wall. Backsplash, we can use type 1 adhesive. It's actually rated for wet areas, although there aren't too many situations anymore where we're actually using adhesive in tiling anymore. I know it's still the code in most bathrooms, but I just find that disgusting. Get this on here, and I think we're probably gonna end up with like a really tiny gap. Maybe 1/16. I think we're gonna try that first. And visually, we'll just see how that looks. When you have a really ornate kind of decorative tile like this, you don't wanna have too much grout because you don't want the wall to be about the grout. A little bag of 1/16 of an inch tile spacers. There's 250 of these things in here. It's amazing. They should go a long way. Always use a spacer when you're putting tile on a countertop. You may not need it now, but at one point in your life, you are going to want to do one of two things. Perhaps change your countertop, or in this example, this is an exterior wall in the wintertime, so it's going to bow a little bit if it gets really cold outside. And if that's what happens, you're going to want to have the ability for this tile to move across the countertop and not be attached and scratching it. So just that little bit of gap makes all the difference in the world. Yeah. We'll get a few pieces on, and then we'll add the rest of our spacers. Anticipate my gap there a little bit. Okay, here we go. Here goes everything. That is crazy. We're going to put these spacers on the same spot on every tile. Wow. Okay. Now, there's two ways to do this, folks. One way is with all the spacers. Okay? The second way is trust the adhesive to do its job and hold its position. All right? And then just set everything where you want it. right, so we're gonna get a little taste test of what this is gonna look like done. We have a 24-inch undermount stainless steel sink going in here, so it'll function as a laundry tub still. But I got them this awesome pull-down faucet from Kohler. Oh, what a beast. Here we go. And the reason I got this, it's a stainless steel, so it'll match the sink. The rest of the hardware in this house area is gonna be all black, but this is gonna be stainless steel to match the sink. And I'm just gonna shove this in. And the reason we got it is this Kohler design here. This is the Triel design line. Of course, that has its water supply lines. I'm already gonna be perfect. Now, does it come, it doesn't have a washer base. There's my mounting hardware. The ugly plates I'm not gonna use. We're gonna have to use a little bit of clear silicone to attach the faucet to the counter so we don't get water going through. It doesn't seem to have a gasket attachment. And there's no way in hell I'm putting this big ugly plate on there if I don't need it. Look at this really cool body styling. So this goes in here like this. It says Kohler, always nice to be able to show off you're buying nice quality products. Check out that beautiful line up there. My God, that just complements the texture in that tile so much. I'm in love. My goodness. So project video update. I just dropped my trowel in the bucket. So I'm gonna buy a new one because it was done and I don't want to work with that. We are close. We are real close. We got a little bit of trim to do, finish the backsplash, connect the sink, and we're gonna bring all the cabinet doors back and reinstall them. So, yeah, probably another good full day in here and we are gonna be able to hand this back over to the client. Yay! All right, so it's time for my finishing touches. And what I do is I take a little bit of my floor protection, put it on my counter for my tools, and I actually write down my list of all the little details I need. Just helps keep me organized, and so I'm not running around in circles, spinning my heels. Now the electrical needs to be installed. And typical, what happens here generally is the screws that mount this are not usually long enough when you add the tile. So one of the tricks, go to the hardware store, pick up 632, that's the machine thread size, and I get 1 1/4 inch screws. And we just line up these holes. And that is the perfect thread. Now you don't want this on too tight because you don't want to be breaking the tile. Best not to attach these until at least a day after you've done your installation. I once had somebody mention in one of my tiling videos that you have to notch out the tile for the set screws for the wall plates. And I said in my comment section, I said, why don't you just buy a wall plate that has a short screw? And they weren't aware that that was even a possibility. And someone else mentioned, oh, I have a special wire cutter to cut my set. That's a lot of work to cut a set screw. Here's a regular one. They come longer, but here's the one that I buy. I mean, dollars for donuts. If I don't have to adjust something once I install it, I'm going to be putting this screw right over top of where the tile is, and it isn't going to matter. No fussing around, no gap in behind the wall plate. And just for aesthetics, always back it off so that the screw line on the slot screw is going vertical, perfectly vertical. There's something visibly disturbing if all of your screws are finished at different areas on the wall. And I've had a client actually call me out on that years ago. Hey, come fix all of your screws. There we go. It's all vertical, nice and easy. It's the same as these lines in the plug. So everything visibly, it just works. I guess it's an OCD thing. Quick note, before you put your door hardware on, make sure that your paint is all dry and that you've adjusted all of your doors for depth and level and square and plumb, because you don't want to adjust it afterwards, all your handles will be in the wrong spot. That's a mistake you only want to make once. Beautiful. Now this is probably the most gorgeous laundry sink I've ever seen. And I just install it with my silicone trick. I use structural silicone and a little T here to hold it in place. Of course, that goes in there. You drop the one behind, screw them together under pressure. It's completely adjustable. So once you're in there, you can yank this up until the sink's under pressure, throw in the screw. And you can save that for the next time you need it. So this is the cross Crevice, we'll call it. That doesn't even go there. Here we are. The cross Crevice sink comes with a square drain. This assembly is very similar to an Ikea, so if you're familiar with that, it has the set nut in the bottom, and then the assembly comes apart. All right? There's a gasket for both sides, under the sink as well as for on top. And because you're making a compression between two rubber gaskets, there's no such thing here as too tight. So in the kit for this sink, it comes with this piece here. The only thing missing is the tail piece. That was not provided. And that's the 1.5 inch pipe that's going to go into this fitting. That's one thing that have to go to the store, which is why I have that list on the counter with all my things to do, because I can scratch it off or I can make a note beside it what I need to pick up in order to finish the job. It's amazing how many tiny little things you have to go back to the store for. So my advice is do everything on your list, and if you can't finish it, just make your note and move on to the next thing. And you'll end up going to the store once to buy 5 things instead of 5 different trips. So another part of the project while we're in the home, and this happens a lot, you know, when you're at somebody's house, they make the short list of all the different things they'd like done while you're here. So we're in the back hallway off the office, and it had an old tile floor as well, and so we're ripping all this out, but instead of putting tile back, we're going with hardwood, and that'll be great because it's gonna run right off the office, which is a hardwood, continue onto the front door. It gets very minimal traffic here, so it's not an issue about the weather, and it's a closed porch on the other side of that door, so we're not worried about too much water coming in here, which makes this really ideal for a hardwood floor. But before we can put the hardwood down, we gotta rip out the old one. When you're installing flooring, your subfloor doesn't need to go right to the drywall. Hell, it doesn't even have to go right up to the baseboard. You're always gonna put flooring on it. Feel free to install your subfloor a little bit shy of the end wall here. Oh yeah, who are you kidding with that? So this is the Boss Stitch hardwood nailer. Tool rental, gotta love it. About every 6 inches you want to throw in a nail, okay? That's the whole system. So the dryer exhaust, lovely. What we want to do first is break up this caulking joint that's all around it. And I like to use my 501 tool for this. Now my guess is the way that this is in, they might have actually put an expansion foam or something in there to hold this in place. It's really putting up a good fight. Wow, not an expansion foam, actual mortar mix. Wow. You know, of all the dryer vents in the entire world, I picked the hardest one to take apart. Usually kids, they just pop right off. All right. I never seen an installation like this before in my life. So somebody at some point has added a second pipe layer inside of this thing. And regardless of what you find, the whole goal here is to clean out the hole. Hang on, I can see it. There you go. Gotta yank. Just yank it, yeah. Just pray that that fits the hole of that mortar joint. I'm running into something in here. Yeah, I'm just gonna make this a lot simpler for us. Perfect. Not a good quality bit. This is probably why the last guy just used adhesive to attach it to the building. It's freaking amazing. So we're gonna copy. I'm using the side of that tube to force it into the hole. Keep your tube in front of your caulking. Put it over that hole and fill it up until you see it squeezing out. I'm gonna show you a quick trick. You put on your valance. You too might be the victim of uneven cabinet installation. So what you want to do is get in behind it with your caulking gun. Now, this may seem a little awkward. It basically eliminates the ability for that light to shine through. And then it gets a nice gap there. So just finishing the last few touches here. And in a few moments, we'll be able to show you the finished project. As you can see, this is a great example of how you can take something completely outdated and with a few modifications and a little imagination and a lot of hard work, you can make it into something beautiful on a budget. Now remember, the costs in this project aren't that extreme. Of course, you have to buy the flooring tile and the countertop here was quartz, but the fixtures are actually reasonable. A few $100s for the sink and the taps, a few dollars for hardware, and then recycle all the old cabinets and do it a paint job. And if you want to know how to refinish your old solid wood cabinetry, we'll have the link in the description below. You can check out that video. It is fabulous. It is the way to shop. If you're buying an old house and you want to renovate a kitchen on a budget, that's the way to do it. Just a great paint job and some new hardware. Beautiful backsplash. It's all in the finishing touches, right? Make sure everything is painted properly, caulked properly, and everything's adjusted well. Now you've got a beautiful room, and we even repainted just to get all the lines straight. Guys, honestly, $1,000 goes a long way if you're gonna restore a room like this. Take the time, renovate your home, make it beautiful. And if you wanna have lots of tips and tricks on how to make your home beautiful, then subscribe to our channel. It's down there in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. And make sure you give us a thumbs up on this video. We need to hear feedback. We wanna know if this is the kind of stuff that you wanna watch. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, where we give you lots of sneak peeks and product information and tips and tricks where you can buy all of these kinds of fixtures. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Reality Renovision. If you're new to our channel, then I suggest you subscribe to the channel over here. Don't forget to hit the bell icon for notifications so you'll be told every time a new video comes up. And if you like, you can click the link right here and you can binge watch all the episodes that we have on our playlist. Amazing information, everything DIY and decor and renovation and remodeling. Thanks for joining us.